Hi everyone, and welcome back to the tasting room. So a couple of months back I did a tribute to all of the fallen bottles, an Empties video, and got pretty good feedback on it. So since then I've amassed a number of, more empty bottles, and before my next trip to the recycle bin I thought I'd better bring out the camera and film another Empties video. So here it goes. First one I have for you today is Rabbit Hole Bourbon. So this was when I bought this, it was a relatively newer distillery in Louisville, Kentucky. I believe the bourbon was only about 2 years old, because I think that's, at the time, that's about as old as the distillery was. So, I liked this. If I remember correctly, I thought it was a little bit young, and I remember liking the rye a little bit better. But I'd definitely be happy to repurchase from this distillery again. I'd like to see maybe a 6 or a 10-year label one day. But yeah, no, it was a decent bourbon if I'm remembering correctly. They did make a rye barrel aged gin too. That was pretty good. But I'm still working on that bottle. Next one here is another bourbon. This is Henry McKenna, 10-year-old. You know, one of your all-time great value bourbons. You know, like very Old Barton, like Weller 107 used to be. Now, yeah, now with demand, Weller, Buffalo Trace has jacked up the price on that one, but. I haven't seen recently another bottle of Henry McKenna, but you know, a lot of those value bourbons are still sticking to their guns. You know, very Old Barton is still $12, $13 a bottle, and I'm sure you can still get Henry McKenna for $20, $30. Just again, one of them great value bourbons that can hold their own with, you know, some of the more established labels. So good. The next one up is a tequila. This is Corralejo Añejo. It's summertime, so I've been hitting the tequila again. This is one of my all-time favorite tequilas. Very, very reasonable price tag. I want to say between $26 and $29 I can usually find this for, and then just a couple bucks cheaper I can find the Reposado in the blue bottle. I personally prefer the Añejo. I like a little bit more age, a little more flavor. I will absolutely be repurchasing this bottle. I'd say this is probably in the top 5 or the top 10 of the tequilas I've had. So very, very good. If you haven't had this one, I do recommend it. A couple more casualties here. We have another tequila. This is Salsa Hornitos. This is the Reposado. I always go back to the Salsa Hornitos, the Reposado, and this one's older brother, the Añejo. Just a great table tequila. Just a good, you know, it's nice for sipping. It's nice for cooking. It's great in a margarita, which is why I have this here too. This is an empty bottle of Cointreau. This is pretty standard here. I mean, I already have another bottle of this. I've been making margaritas. And this one here, of course, you know, it's at $19, $20 a bottle. You just can't beat it for a fair sipping tequila, a great mixing tequila. You know, I definitely keep going back to the Salsa Hornitos. It's just hard to beat the value on that one. Next we have a Scotch. This is Glengoyne, 10-year-old. This was a nice tin. I'm going to miss this tin. But this is an unpeated Highland Scotch whiskey. And I remember being a little skeptical when I was going to buy this one. Just because they say on the bottle they use no peat ever. And it's like, man, a Scotch without peat? What is that? But the flavor on this one was remarkable. Very, very good. Nicely done. I would definitely recommend picking up a bottle of this if you haven't had it before and you're not a fan of peat or smoke. This is a very, very good Scotch. I'll be trying other things from this distillery. Absolutely. Well, as the weather gets warmer and warmer for me, it's gin season. So I've been going through some gin too. This one here I reviewed a little while back. This one I picked up in Pennsylvania from the Brandywine Branch Distillery, I think it's called. Pardon me if that's incorrect. But this is the Revivalist Botanical Gin. This was their Equinox expression, or the spring. Since then, I have acquired, since I've emptied this bottle, I've acquired the their summer version. What's that one called? Might just be called Summertide. I don't remember. Anyway, this distillery here, they do a real nice job at their gins. They have 4 or 5 different gins. They have I know they have 4 one for each of the seasons. And last time I was there, they had a kind of a spicy jalapeno infused gin. It was kind of cool. It was kind of neat. But anyway, while I was at the distillery, I got a chance to sample a number of them, and I wasn't disappointed with any of them. They do make a nice gin. If you're looking for a little bit different flavor, than your standard, just plain old. Here's a couple botanicals and a bunch of juniper. This one very, very nice. Speaking of gin, here's an empty bottle of the St. George Botanivore. St. George makes 3 gins that I know of. They have the dry rye gin, which is very, very good. They have the terroir, which is like drinking a liquid pine tree. It's no joke. It's like a forest in a glass. Too much for me, but if that's your thing, go for the terroir. And then this here, the Botanivore. This one and the Botanist from Gladi, they fight for my #1 spot for gin. This is an absolutely incredible gin. Tons and tons of botanicals, very fresh flavor, just unbelievable gin. If you're looking for a great gin, break from the norm, I definitely recommend. Look for a sale. You could find this for mid-30s, I want to say. Low to mid-30s. So not bad at all for what you're getting. You're getting a fantastic gin. Okay, next one here is another bourbon. Very Old Barton, 100 proof. This is my favorite expression of Very Old Barton. I don't have to tell you whether or not I'd repurchase a bottle because I probably have 7 or 8 bottles laying around my house right now. Well, they're still going for about $12.99 a bottle. I can't help myself when I see it. I got to pick up a bottle because it does go through spurts where it's very, very hard to find. Bourbon only ages so fast, So back a couple of years ago, when demand for bourbon started to skyrocket, and there just wasn't enough supply there to meet the growing demand, this one kind of went away from the market. But since I've been able to find it more and more, so I've been buying it up. Most definitely a $13 bourbon. It drinks like a $50 bourbon. I absolutely love this one. Just one of my standard go-tos. So I'll always have a place on my shelf. And the last one I have for you today is another bourbon. This is Pure Kentucky. I believe this one is a Willet product. And if you're ever in the Bardstown, Kentucky area, I recommend going to see Willet. It's not as big as some of those other giant distilleries. It's just a nice family-owned, small operation. A lot of things there still done by hand. Just very quaint, very lovely distillery. And I really don't know that I've ever had a Willet product that I didn't like. This one, may not be a 100-point bourbon here, but it's definitely it's got a reasonable price tag on it. I want to say this is probably in a $30 neighborhood. And it's just a very, very decent bourbon. I would like to think that I would repurchase this one at some point in the future. Well, that's it, folks. Those are all the empty bottles I had to share with you today. It'll be nice to be able to make that trip to the recycle bin and clear out some space in the cupboard. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know I enjoyed making it. Make sure you subscribe if you're not already a member to my channel, and then after you do, hit that little bell next to the subscribe button that comes up to make sure you get notifications of new videos that come out. Do have one come out every weekend, and I'd hate for you to miss one. So go ahead and do that for me, and I will see you again next week right here on The Tasting Room.